Guys, today we are back with another Is Blank the Best Used Car in the part of this series. I have a whole playlist of vehicles that we have done in the past. That playlist is going to be up over here for your viewing pleasure, where we've done several other vehicles to see if you think or if I think they are the best used car. Today we're looking at the Jeep Compass, and we could also incorporate the Jeep Patriot as part of this because they are basically the exact same vehicle, at least on the underside, maybe even the inside. The looks are a little bit different. So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Jason. Since 2008, we've been selling used cars and learning lots of what to sell and what not to sell. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of crap for telling people that these are a decent vehicle. And they are. They really are a decent vehicle, especially for the price we pay for them. This particular one is a 2015 with 146,000 kilometers, which is less than 100,000 miles. And it should sell for less than 10,000 Canadian dollars, or about 75 or 6 US. And to put that into perspective, an equivalent Toyota RAV4 or Honda CR-V is probably going to run you around 15,000 Canadian dollars, maybe 11 or 12 US. Is the RAV4 or the CR-V a better vehicle overall? In my opinion, absolutely. But if you're budget shopping and budget conscious, then sometimes you've got to look for other alternatives on vehicles that may flip your bill at the time. Maybe you can't afford that extra few dollars on that payment. So this is filling in that gap. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over this vehicle and show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And by the end of this video, we'll be able to determine whether or not the Jeep Compass / Patriot is the best used car on the market. And in this case, compact SUV. So let's start with the good. The good is it's a Jeep. For some people, they think that Jeep is a great brand. Good for off-roading, good all-wheel drive capabilities, stuff like that. But I tend to disagree with it to the point where a Jeep Wrangler is a Jeep Wrangler. As stout and as nimble and as off-road capable as those are, everything else after that just simply is not. But in this facelift model, they did do a little bit of, smoothing out of the headlights and the front grille. But from basically the A-pillar back, it's still the same Jeep Compass that it was when it came out initially, I believe, in 2008. You could get them in a variety of trim levels. This particular one is a high altitude, which gives you the 17-inch wheels, power seats, and heated leather. In some cases, you got the upgraded stereo. In this case, somebody has actually upgraded to an aftermarket backup camera, which actually works. And this one even has a sunroof. Now, these used to come in a front-wheel drive variation, as well as all-wheel drive. And some of the earlier ones, I think you could even get them with a manual transmission. In this case, we've got the 2.4-liter Tiger Shark 4-cylinder and an automatic transmission mated to an all-wheel drive system. Now, these are some of the most popular SUVs that we sell. And again, some people are going to be in the comments saying, well, you sell them because they're cheap, they're junk, and you're just trying to make money. I'm in business to make money, selling cars, and that's what we do. And we want to sell cars that sell quickly, like these do. And simply they sell quickly because of the price point. We will get into some of the problems that they have, which we look after when they do come through the door. But for the most part, they're a comfortable SUV. They've got decent power, and I'm not sure the exact fuel economy numbers, but I know they're pretty good, so I'm gonna leave them up here somewhere for you guys. So we've talked about the styling, we've talked about some of the options, we've talked about pricing. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the things that you need to look out for when you're buying one of these things, whether it's private sale or from a dealership. If you're buying it from us, we're gonna look after all these things, but if you're buying private sale or from a other sketchy car dealer, these are some of the things that you're going to want to check out because they are common issues on these. These are the easy ones to fix. Let's take a look. First place we're going is the interior, simply because it's friggin' cold outside. It's below 0 Fahrenheit today. Common issue on these style radios, no matter whether it's a Jeep Compass, a Dodge Caravan, an Avenger, a full-size Ram truck, these radios have an FM problem. And what that problem is the FM radio does not work. I don't know if this one does. Let's check it out. Yeah, so this one actually works, but I did a video on these on teaching you guys a quick fix or an easy fix. Well, it's simply replacing the radio, but with something a lot better than what this is. because it does offer you Bluetooth and the option for backup camera, and I'm going to leave that video link right up here for you guys to check out. Another common failure point for these things was the four-wheel drive switch button. Now, if you follow the console all the way down behind the shifter and right beside the parking brake, you will see right here, it says four-wheel drive lock. Sometimes those switches will break and they get loose. This one here is actually working fine. And when I turn it on, you'll see there right beside the mileage, the four-wheel drive lock comes on, lets you know that the switch is working. Another thing to look out for is your parking brake and traction control light being on the dash, which this particular one does not have any lights on except for the fasten seatbelt because we're sitting here in the seat. And that's generally an indicator of a wheel speed sensor and or wheel bearing problem. And more commonly, the rear wheel bearing tone rings will rust to the point where the sensor can't read it, or the sensor itself gets destroyed by rust and crap getting in around where the tone ring is, and you have to replace that. So if you have the ability to scan your own vehicle, take a look, see if it's a left or right rear wheel speed sensor problem, because I'm guaranteeing it's going to lead you to one of those rear wheel speed sensors. Now, like a lot of vehicles here in southern New Brunswick, we are in the rust belt, is rust, and that is something that you have to pay close attention to on these particular vehicles. And let me show you where the common rust areas are. The most common problem area you're going to be able to see right away, and that is this lip right here along the rear wheel. You'll see I can grab my fingers and I can haul out all the dirt that gets up underneath that lip, and it rots from the inside out, and the paint will start peeling up this way. And this is a common repair area on these vehicles. Also, because it has a cover over the rocker panel area, you're going to have to get your fingers up in there and feel to see if there's any holes, because if there's holes, you can't see them. It just looks like a good rocker panel. So there is a little access hole right here. You can stick your finger up in there and feel and see how solid they are. In this particular one, it's in really good shape. Now, another common problem area is the rear suspension. This has independent rear suspension, and you've got bushings on your lower control arm, your upper control arm. You've got a trailing arm that goes forward with a bushing on the front of that, and those are some of the common bushings that fail. And when they fail, your rear tires will start to lean in, kind of like this one is. And another common trait is the inside of the rear tires will start to wear more than the outside, just like this one is. And there may only be one part or one bushing that's actually worn to the point where it might be clunking or making a noise. But in our experience, even if you change that one part that's failed, you've got to go send it for an alignment to get the alignment corrected. And then a few months down the road, you may be replacing another bushing. So what we do is we just order all the parts and replace all the necessary bushings and or arms. That way, when you drive off my lot, it's something you don't have to worry about, at least for a few years, until those parts start to wear down with age and mileage. And we're only doing that alignment once. So overall, we feel like this vehicle is a decent second vehicle or a first vehicle for a kid or something like that. That's not going to be terribly maintenance heavy, but by the same token, it's going to be something that's going to be cheap to buy, cheap to repair. And if you can do the repairs yourself, you're going to save yourself some money there as well if you're handy. If you're not, well, you got to pay someone to do that, but at least you've got some ammunition going forward to know what to look for. Now, I did say we were going to take a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We talked about the good, we talked about the bad, and as far as I'm concerned, there really is no major ugly on these things. Maybe you might think the vehicle itself is ugly, but when I say ugly, I mean catastrophic failures. Earlier models, when they first came out in 08 up to I think it was 2012, they had a CVT transmission that worked like a CVT transmission, and they were problematic. And now all the current models have, I don't know if it's the same transmission or not, but what they've done is they've installed either electronic shift points. I don't know if they can do that, but it actually feels like it's shifting. So there's something different about them. And in those later models, we've not had any issues. The early models, the 08s to 12s, yeah, we had a lot of problems with transmissions. And well, we got away from buying them for a while until we found out that these transmissions were holding up a little bit better. They basically are non-serviceable, so when you do have a problem, you got to replace the whole thing, and they're certainly not worth rebuilding. As I've mentioned, in the later models, we've not had any transmission issues with them at all, at least in the ones that we've sold. Now, some people will tell you that the 2.4 in these things are bad engines and that they're oil burners. And on the contrary, I find that they are some of the best engines on any vehicle that we sell. Some say they're oil burners. We've never experienced one that burns a lot of oil. If they do, okay, it's something that you're going to have to keep up with. But if you're doing your oil changes at 5,000 kilometer intervals or 3,000 miles, then you're going to be able to catch that earlier than if you went the recommended 10 or 12 on some of these newer vehicles. Folks, do not go 10 or 12,000 kilometers or 8 or 10,000 miles between oil change intervals. You will have engine issues. That's what they want you to have. So you go back and buy another car. So now's the time we go and we take it for a drive. So one thing you probably will notice right off the bat is under acceleration, they're a bit noisy. There's not a lot of insulation under there, but these were not meant to be a premium vehicle with all the sound deadening and noise cancellation and all that stuff that you hear. One thing about that rear suspension, that as a rule, you're probably not going to notice how bad the rear suspension is going to be just driving it down the road. It generally doesn't make any noise, but sometimes in the summer, if you've got the windows down and you're cruising along, you might hear some squeaking because those bushings are dry and you may have metal to metal rubbing against each other where those bushings have failed. Now, all the cruise control buttons and your turn signals and wipers and AC switches, radio, all that stuff's at your fingertips, but you do have controls on the backs of the steering wheel as well for volume and tuning. I find the seating position for somebody like myself who is 6'2", I can adjust it the way I want. I've got plenty of headroom. And even with the smaller, narrower cockpit, I don't find I'm too cramped in here. And like I said, I'm 6'2", 220. If you're much bigger than I am, you may find this is going to be too small of a vehicle for you. And if you are somewhat of a music file, you are going to love the stereo systems in these Jeeps. They are just the base stereo system, but man, they pound really good. And even though I showed you that the rear suspension was leaning a little bit, driving down the highway, going straight, like I said, you're never going to notice. The steering wheel pretty much stays straight the way it is. It's hard to tell until you go in and have it checked out. So these are one vehicle that you're going to want to have a mechanic check out for you, and specifically have them ask about that rear suspension, because chances are you're not going to feel much of a difference when you're driving it. It's not until you have it looked at that you know you're going to have to spend a few bucks on it. Just like this one. And yes, those heated seats are working, which is absolutely wonderful on a cold December day here in Canada. Okay, so at the end of the day, we have to answer the question, is the Jeep Compass / Patriot the best used SUV, best used car on the market? And the answer to that is a little bit complicated because it simply depends on how you're looking at it. If you're looking at it from a cost savings point of view, then you have to take into consideration cost of ownership over years of maintenance and rear suspension work and stuff like that. If you're talking about the cost of buying one of these things, well, yeah, then in fact they are the best used car, because if you're trying to find something comparable in a Japanese or a foreign brand, they're going to be significantly more money. But at the end of the day, if it fits your budget, it is a great bang for the buck, because you can maintain these things fairly cheaply. You can buy them for less money than a lot of the other competition. And when you factor in things like styling, comfort, power, economy, I find the Compass and Patriot right up there with all of that stuff. So, are they the best used car? Probably not. But are they a great cost-effective alternative to the RAV4 or the CR-V or the Tiguan or some of those foreign brands? Yeah, I would say that it is an absolute great alternative. So guys, if you love your Compass Patriot, or even if you've had horror stories, make sure you leave them in the comment section down below, because people are going to want to find out for themselves from people like you whether or not you love or hate your Compass / Patriot. And in the meantime, I'm going to have these things and CR-Vs and RAV4 sitting on my lot right side by side so that people can compare it for themselves. If they see the quality in the Toyotas and the Hondas, then they'll buy that. If they're buying on budget alone, maybe the Compass is what they need. So as I mentioned before, I've done videos on the Ford Fusion, the Ford Focus, the Crown Victoria, the Dodge Caravan, the Dodge Avenger, Toyota Corolla. If you guys want to see more of is this the best used car, make sure you follow the playlist that I mentioned before. I'll leave it again up here as well as in the comments. Make sure you like this video and make sure you subscribe to Olde Carr Guy, because we're going to be doing a lot more of these is the best used car videos in the near future. Also, check out my merchandise store, which is the first link in the description box down below. And make sure you stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. I love you guys. God bless. But we'll see you in the next video.